3 years ago, in 2018, February 21st, we opened a draft law submitted to the Grand National Assembly. It took the first step to legalize the People's Alliance, the roots of which took start on the night of July the 15th. The People's Alliance, looking back, it turns out to be not only the most well-respected, but also the most dignified and principled alliance of Turkish politics for the unity of our country, togetherness of our people, and also for the existence of our state. This alliance of understanding we have created is going to contribute much to the success of Turkey in its international politics. Likewise, from anti-terror activities, to do away with many attacks. Thanks to the People's Alliance, we frustrated many plans. The structure established with the leadership of CHP in every unfolding incident fell apart, and it is only due to the structure, the pillar it sits on, which is of shakiness. And CHP took another structure to its side and found all it could to close its ranks and established a political alliance for itself, which is rather forced and constrained, and in this constrained, far-fetched alliance they have created, you cannot find a principled stance, and they have never exhibited the virtue of standing with their own state in the face of international attacks that Turkey has endured. So what does this irregular structure contain? A structure that lacks and is absent of principles and great values. And it is only of fanatism, a spectacle indeed. And they don't have national or spiritual motives or humanitarian targets. The CHP, with its own plans, programs, projects, dreams, efforts, indeed don't have much concrete to present, but only acts with some positive or negative external force. In CHP, the nation does not exist because the nation knows the CHP very closely since the single-party period. And in CHP, there is no democracy because CHP abuses the democracy in rhetoric, but it hasn't taken its smallest share from democracy and is a pure fascist party. There exists no development within CHP because CHP has not produced any policies that will work for the benefit and the good of people, their welfare and prosperity. And they do not have such an acquis even. And there is no justice in CHP because CHP knows no justice or law other than the law or the justice of the kingmakers and tutelage. And there is no national sensitivity in CHP because their political stance is not geared towards the country, but is determined in line with the scenarios put in front of them. And they have no plans for the country because CHP is not able to even face cases of theft, corruption, assault, or rape, and it is only stuck in the swamp of arrogance. And within this party, people, not by their knowledge or merits, are positioned for their own personal interests. Ultimately, CHP has become an amorphological structure, an amorphous structure that is no longer of real concrete structure, but is a freak. So when it comes to indeed the country-related issues, we cannot turn a blind eye to what they do. Out of respect to the legacy of Ghazi, there are some who vote for the favor of CHP. But I would like to call on to my citizens. As seen, CHP is a lost party, and it is not a loss in politics only, but across the whole country. And you don't need to go far. Only after the heavy snowfall last week, the images and the footages that came from the cities that are administrated by CHP groups are bare for everyone to see. I will not make any personal complaints myself, but let's now remember those footage from last week.
Vallahi abicim sabahtan beri neler çekiyoruz biz. Belediye de yetersiz. Yani daha önceden bırakıyorlardı tuz. Şu an tuz da yok. Oo, ne yapıyorsun? La dur la dur la dur. Herhalde Bay Kemal de izliyordur. Bu da almadan gitti.
Bakın orada binerken bize bilgi verilmedi. Bu kadar millet dağ başında bırakıldı. Herkes en az 2 kilometre, 3 kilometre daha yol gidecek. Nasıl gidecek?
Bu kadar insan mahsur kalmış durumda burada karda kışta. Yani belediye kara teslim olmuş durumda. Kar kuruyan araçları ben daha görmedim ki. Belediye otobüsleri zincir taktı.
Öyle Karacan'ın sebepsizliği.
Tuzlama yok. Her taraf donmuş.
Şu hale bakın ya, şu rezalete bakın ya. Büyükşehir Belediyesi uyuyor burada.
Evet, CHP. Çöp.
Yes, CHP.
Çamur.
Trash, pits,
Bu kadar basit
holes,
bir konuda bile
and mud.
vatandaşlarımıza hizmet veremeyenleri
Even for such a simple issue, they fell short to deliver service to our citizens. And what are we going to do with them?
2023 yılında
Now let's come together
diğer
for
alanlardaki
2023.
hedefleriyle birlikte
We
gerçek anlamda bir ana muhalefet de kazandıralım.
should create a real opposition to Turkey, and let's all together crack open the doors for a new Turkey until 2023. Distinguished brothers and sisters, feeling enmity and hostility to their own nation, there is this mindset that daggers their own when they have the chance, and such a dirty mindset is by CHP and a terror group that is controlled by the PKK. Last week, 13 innocent unarmed people were slaughtered by this terror group one night suddenly, and even their acts did not suffice for CHP to feel ashamed of themselves, and now they even use this to indeed attack me personally. For 5 years, 6 years, our police followed those 13 people and tried to figure out who the abductors were. And throughout those 5-6 years, we have searched all those terrains, all mountainous areas to find them. But these people have no shame to say that these people were not at risk. But they worked with CHP, their partner, those groups, and this political party controlled by the group. And after 5 years, we felt the need to launch the operation. And after that, I sent the Minister of Defense and also the Minister of Interior Affairs to this person's office, and they told and explained him what really happened. And we also explained all in the Grand National Assembly. But even though all those were clearly explained, they only bombarded with criticism. But they, our incumbents, came to your office, explained everything in greater detail and clarity. But how shameful can you be that you still attack after all the elaborations and detailed presentations made at the assembly? But no matter what you believe, you should know that the PARTİ power, PARTİ government will continue to march its own path by clearing those terrorists in their dens one by one. So what was the number of terrorists? It was expressed in thousands, but now the figure has come to hundreds, a couple of hundreds. And our struggle will continue with the same resoluteness. There are some who try to protect the terror group and its extension, and there are some who sink so low to even blame us for what the terror group does. Now he goes out there and says Erdoğan is responsible for that. How shameful, how disgraceful you are. They have no honor or dignity. Over these 5-6 years, we day and night worked for this, and despite that, unfortunately, this has turned out to be the outcome, and we feel very deeply saddened, but we will be taking our revenge, and the blood of our martyrs will be avenged for. And Mr. Kemal, you should know that very clearly, and your partner HDP, should know it too. Together, let them walk from Ankara to Istanbul one more time. As they march from Ankara to Istanbul maybe one more time, we, inshallah, will be triumphing, and we will never give them another opportunity. And they have no shame to say that what did we do to prevent you from your counter-terrorism activities? What else could you do, from PKK to YPG to PYD and DHKPC? You defended many MPs, many mayors, or many chairpersons of terror parties. Weren't you the ones who supported them? And were you not again the one who criticized our cross-border operations and told us we could not go, we could not do, or whatsoever? Until only yesterday, were you not again the one who said we do not see this party as a member of the terror group? And again, let me reiterate, were you not the ones who walked from Ankara to Istanbul with a terror group? And now let us again see over a footage how CHP has turned into the twin of this party controlled by a terror group.
Biz YPG'yi terör örgütü olarak görmeyiz. Terör örgütü olarak görmeyiz.
YPG'yi nasıl desteklediğini biliyoruz. Dolayısıyla
Yani onlar bize mi saldıracaklar?
Evet, bizim sınırımızda başkası olacağını, PYD olsun, bizim hiç sakıncası.
Bak, PYD konusu ilk günden beri diyorum.
Terör örgütü
değil midir? Değil, benim gözümde.
Biz sırtımızı YPG'ye, YPJ'ye ve PYD'ye yaslıyoruz.
Biz hapiste hasta yatan PKK'lıya da gittik, DHKPC'liye de gittik.
HDP bu stratejiyle İstanbul seçimlerine katılacaktır. Ekrem İmamoğlu'nu destekleyecektir.
İnanın bununla yarışan bir HDP'li desteği de yaşıyor.
İlçe belediyesinde ve büyük şehirde AKP ve MHP kaybetsin. Siz biliyorsunuz ne yapacağınızı.
Ekrem İmamoğlu seçilmişse bilecek ki, Mansur Yavaş da bilecek ki seçilmişse HDP oylarıyla seçilmiştir.
Kandil'de PKK unsurları kalmamıştır. PKK'nın boşalttığı Kandil'in dağlarını F-16'larla vurup buradan seçimde bir güç elde etmeyi düşünmektedirler.
Öğrenciler hakkında örgüt üyesi olmak suçlamaları var. Silahlı terör örgütüne üye olmak ve yardım ve yatakla suçlanan bu öğrencilerin en temel ortak özellikleri hayatlarında hemen hemen hiç silah görmemeleri.
Barikatları kuran arkadaşlara da
PYD'nin, YPG'nin terör örgütü olduğunu düşünüyor musunuz?
Bir örgüt eğer gerçekten PKK terör örgütüyle arasına mesafe koyuyorsa, o örgütü kınıyorsa, biz terör örgütü değiliz diye net, somut bir açıklama yapıyorsa elbette biz bu açıklamaya önem veririz. Biz YPG'yi terör örgütü olarak görmeyiz. Terör örgütü olarak görmeyiz.
Belge mi? Belge.
Is this a document? It is.
İrade. Hepsi bu.
Was this a will? Yes, it was.
Bizzat kendileri ifade
It's all
ediyor
here.
mu? Ediyor.
Did they
Gara
speak those
katliamı
words themselves?
öncesi ve
Yes.
sonrasıyla
Gara
ülkemizde terör
massacre
konusunda kimin nerede durduğunu göstermesi
with
açısından
its
gerçekten
aftermath and
turnusol.
and also what took place before it has become a litmus paper.
Hem deprem konutlarının
And
temel atma
yesterday,
törenine katılmak,
to
hem 9
participate
Eylül
the groundbreaking
Üniversitemizin
ceremony for the
düzenlediği
housing
göç
for the
konferansında
houses
konuşmak üzere İzmir'deydim.
built for earthquake victims,
işgal
and
acısının
also to
sivil
deliver
katliamının ne demek olduğunu gayet iyi
remarks.
bilen
I was in Izmir, and brothers and sisters from Izmir who know very much what slaughtering is, I believe, evaluates all these matters in detail. Just like we disappointed those attackers years ago, we will give the due lesson to their political collaborators. In the face of tutelage, our nation has never yielded. And just like they have never yielded, and just like they have made their chests shields to coup attempts, and just like they overcame all predicaments, they will again be burying this dirty mentality of the CHP into the dusty pages of history. Those who start their sentences by praising the terror groups have some other heinous and ulterior motives, which are seen clearly by our nation. With every question they ask, indeed, it is becoming clear that they have no idea about how the measures taken against those terror groups are put in practice, and how big the scale of the pandemic is, or how the attacks against our country are launched. The attacks do target our nation's unity, togetherness, and they only do relate that to some disasters that our country had years ago. And they do not get enough of that, but also praise what our nation had to go through years ago. They do not remember that our children had to be educated in small classrooms, and they had no books to study or clothing, and many children were deprived of education. And no one has forgotten that. And no one has also forgotten the struggle that our citizens had to face in healthcare services, and no one has forgotten what kind of absence that our nation had to endure in terms of equipment or medication and hospitals. And no one still has forgotten what difficulties our nation has to go through. From energy to transportation, from sports to environment, we have gone through a lot. And no one have forgotten about what was it like in the past. And now let's all together remember some days from the old Turkey.
Hep dükkanlar yok diyorlar. Yok diyorlar. Ondan sonra da böyle geçen günde şu mahallede birini gene bastılar. Sana yağ aldım.
Kendimize eğer burada yaşıyorsak Allah rızası için ne iyi. Zaten pislikten geçilmiyor. Güvenlik desen hiçbir güvenlik yok. Hiç olmazsa bir muayene etsinler bari, onu istiyoruz yani.
Ayağımız kırık, geliyoruz işte böyle. Buralarda yakın
Şu anda ekranları başında bizi izleyen
Those
milletime
watching
de
us
sesleniyorum. İşte bunlar
from TV, I would like to make a call to my nation. These are the footage recorded during the time when Mr. Kemal was the president of the Social Security Institution.
devlet
Milleti zannediyoruz ki ilk anda hemen geliyor, yaraları sarıyor zannediyoruz.
Bir günlük göstermelik gelip de buraya iş yapmayın.
Kendim asıyorum ama devlet yok.
Hangi devlet nerede?
Eski Türkiye. Devlet yok.
This was the old Turkey.
Sayın
The
Kılıçdaroğlu,
state
sen neredesin?
institution.
Sen
The state
SSK'nın genel
was not
müdürlüğünü
there.
yapmadın mı ya?
Where is it? Where was it?
Bütün o
And
dönemlerde
Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu,
siz
where were
ölülerin
you?
yere hin
Were you
aldınız
not
değil.
the president of the Social Security
O
institution?
hastaneleri yaşadık.
And you, during your post, even
O kuyruklarda
held
sabahın erken
the
saatlerinde
deceased
kupon
as
alıp
captives at
ondan sonra
hospitals.
da hastalarımızı getirdiğimiz
And we
günleri hatırlıyorum.
experienced all those days. We
Şunları yaşadık.
remember how people were
Şu
kept
anda böyle bir
waiting
hastane
at
kaldı
the
mı?
doors of hospitals
Şu anda
for hours
hastanelerimizin
and
hepsi
nights and days.
elhamdülillah.
Do we have any longer such hospitals?
Herkes
Of course
huzurlu.
not. Our hospitals are
Herkes şu anda güveniyor.
well sufficient and functioning,
Ve her
and
geçen gün
everyone is at peace,
daha da
and
güçlü hale
they
geliyor.
have full trust in
Şu
our
anda
hospital
Batı
capacity. And every
Türkiye'nin
passing
sağlık
day, we
sistemini
are becoming
örnek.
stronger. And now the West takes
Çaresizlik
the
içinde
health system
etrafına
of
bakınıp
Turkey as an
nerede bu
example.
devlet diye feryat eden insanların yaşadığı
People,
bir dönemin özlemini yaşayanlar milleti yeniden yokluklara,
who
çilelere,
experienced the times
sefalete,
when
eziyete mahkum
the
etmek
citizens
istiyorlar.
were questioning where the state
Allah Türkiye'yi
was.
bu zihniyetten de,
Remember
onun
those old
ihtiraslarından da,
days.
onu besleyip
And
milletin
may
başına musallat
God
edenlerden
protect
de
us
korusun.
against all those people who made us go through such
Değerli kardeşlerim,
days.
ülkemizin terörle mücadele
My dear brothers and
konusundaki
sisters,
kararlılığı
Turkey's resoluteness
sadece
about
içimizdeki
counterterrorism
terör
is not
sevdalılarını
only
dışarıda
an
da
issue
epeyce bir
that
kesimi rahatsız ediyor.
disturbed the lovers
Buradan bir
of
kez daha tekrarlamak
terrorists
istiyorum.
within our country,
Türkiye'nin
but also
sınırları
many
içinde ve dışında
outside our borders.
yürüttüğü
Let me
terörle mücadele
reiterate the
harekatları
anti-terrorism
hem meşru hakkıdır,
operations that
hem
Turkey
de
has been
insani görevlidir.
launching across our
Dünyadaki
borders
her devlet
and
gibi
within our
Türkiye'de
borders are
kendisine yönelen
legitimate
tehditlere karşı mücadelesini
rights of our country.
gerektiğinde kaynağına
And Turkey,
kadar
if
inerek
necessary,
sürdürme
will continue
hakkına
with its
sahip.
counterterrorism operations
Coğrafyamızdaki
by
bin
way
yıllık
of going
varlığımızın
down
bize
deep
yüklediği
to the
kardeşlik,
roots. The
dostluk,
fraternity,
insanlık görevlerini
friend,
yerine getirmek için
Linus,
kimseden
and
icazet
partnership
alacak
we have in the region for more than 1,000 years
Samandağ'dan
the
Şemdinli'ye kadar
make
tüm
it legitimate
sınırlarımızı
by
yeteri kadar derinliğe inerek
by
güvenli hale getirene
every
dek
dimension, and until we secure
Balkanlardan
all the spots,
Türkistan'a,
all the locations, we will not stop from the
Kafkasya'dan
Balkans to
Afrika'ya
Turkestan, from
gönül
Caucasia to
sınırlarımızın
Africa.
tamamındaki her bir kardeşimizin
We
iyi ve
will
kötü
be
gününde
reaching out to
yanında
all brothers
olmayı
and sisters,
sürdüreceğiz.
and we will stand
İlke ve
with
onur sahibi
our
herkes,
brothers and sisters
Türkiye'nin
in
bu meşru
dark and
mücadelesine
bright days.
ve yaklaşımına
And
destek
everyone who
vermeye
has
davet
a
ediyorum.
principled stance
Her kim
is
bu mücadeleye
invited to
amalı,
support Turkey's legitimate
fakatlı beyanlarla
right. Whoever who
düşürmeye
comes up
kalkarsa
with
bilsin
some
ki
statements
hayati
that
bir
start
yanlış
with
içindedir.
if or but
Bencil
should know
stratejik
that
önceliklerin,
that they are
kısır hesapların,
utterly wrong.
yanlış
Vicious
ittifakların,
calculations,
ölü politikalarla
wrong
açılan
alliances
tehlikeli
lead
yolun
to
sonu herkes
wrong
için
and misleading
felakettir.
policies, and the
Yıllardır
path that is led
batılı
by those
dostlarımızı
is only but
terör
only danger and
örgütleriyle
disaster.
aynı yatağa
For
girmeyin.
years, we made
Bunlar
calls
yılan
to our
gibidir.
Western allies
Tabiatları icabı bir
and
gün
warned them
mutlaka
not to go into the
sizi de
same
ısırırlar
bed with the
diyoruz.
terror groups. And
Terör ateşini
as
gördüğünüz
of
yerde
their nature, they
söndürmezseniz
will bite
bir gün
you when they
mutlaka
feel the
size de
need,
sıçrar
we said.
diye
And
ikaz
if you do not put out
Buna
the
rağmen
fire of terror,
hala
it will
aynı
be
yanlışlar
sparking
tekrarlanıyor.
over
Bizi dinlemeyenlerin akıbetini işte
your
hep birlikte
spheres, we said, but they have not quite listened to what we said, And now we can see the manifestations of those. We see the streets are stirred up, parliaments or the parliamentary and state buildings are being raided and occupied, and we do not want to think of a future as such. Rather than being together with Turkey, a well-rooted country with a great history, some do hold hands with terror groups, and they will be only dragged more and more deeper down into this black hole. And their efforts to drag us with themselves in tow will be to no avail, because throughout our history we have frustrated many plans and blocked and driven away many attacks, and for that reason we vocalize out loudly our Rabia. And what do we say for it? Are we ready? Let's now all stand up. One nation, one flag, one homeland, one state. We will be together, we will be great, we will be brothers and sisters, and all together we will be Turkey. No matter what the others do, they will not be able to disrupt our nation's peace, togetherness, and fraternity. No matter what the others do, they will not be able to put out our love for our independence and our future. That is the reflection of our national anthem and our flag. No matter what they do, they will not be able to make our country collapse and make our country yield. From Edirne to Trabzon, from Hatay to Kars, from all corners of the country, we do exhibit this decisiveness, and with God's grace and our nation's support, we will be achieving our 2023 goals and leave a country that is of pride to our next generations, because with all 84 million of this country, we are the Turkish nation. My brothers and sisters, when such developments unfolded in terrorism, the coronavirus pandemic that has led to great changes is closely followed. The number of people who lost their lives due to the virus has exceeded the figure of 2.5 million, and the coronavirus pandemic took a hold in the whole world as well as in our country, and more than 2.6 million got infected, and more than 21,000 of our citizens unfortunately lost their lives. Thanks to the measures we have taken in a very timely and effective fashion, we have prevented harsher damage, potential damage on our economy. Last year, many great economies of the world did shrink significantly, while Turkey has been among the few countries that could sustain their growth. While fighting many economic traps, there are also some others who try to create new waves of attacks, but using all the means we had at hand, we never gave them a chance. A large portion of the foreign currency that Kılıçdaroğlu asks about all the time was utilized in our struggle. There were some who tried to increase the interest rates and also currency exchange rates. to high levels, but thanks to our measures, we have disrupted their plans as well. And from the workers to the farmers, from the industrialists to the SMEs, we have provided many incentive programs and packages. For these incentives and support programs, we have allocated a source of 311 billion liras and tried our best to stand with each and every one of our citizens. Social support and assistance programs and short-time working subsidies were used, and we have allocated more than 53 billion liras for it. CHP has been attacking Mr. Berat recently, and we have observed indeed Mr. Albayrak's sincere measures and efforts. And the sectors, the industries that had to take a pause due to the pandemic go through much of a challenge, and we are fully aware of their challenges, but we also have provided many additional incentive and assistance programs to them. We tried our best to make sure that each and every citizen feels our state and standing next to them, and for that we have mobilized all means of our state authorities. And we are also aware that these are not permanent solutions. It is required to revitalize education, production, employment, and it is only possible through normalization process, we know. The number of cases, severe cases, and also the death toll stand on one hand, and on the other we have the normalization calendar. If we cannot balance those two well and go for a rapid normalization, we will then feel the need to adopt more rigid measures that would lead to harsher realities. That's why we ask for the patience of our country, our people. And as Turkey, we need to take also the steps for normalization. Our economic and humanitarian relations with especially the geography of Europe, with which we have close relations, is a necessary, is a need. From tourism to education, from production to employment. With such methods, we can only achieve our goals. The virus is looming large on the streets of many countries. If our doors are closed, and if there is no flight to resume, and if the raw materials are not supplied, if the produce is not of course delivered and transported, then it will be to no avail. During the last presidential cabinet meeting, in accordance with the criteria set by the Ministry of Health, we have given good news that the normalization process would start in some specific cities, and within the scope of this calendar we have started taking steps for normalization in education, and hopefully in the following weeks and months we will have taken steps towards normalization, which will meet the needs and demands of our citizens in specific cities. We ask our citizens to comply with the rules very carefully and help us achieve the normalization process and criteria before long. Such a struggle, such a fight can only be put up with if all 84 million of the country act in harmony and together. Otherwise, we won't be able to bring the figures down, and find it very difficult to curb the further spread of the virus. In this regard, the vaccination process will continue continue and be administered for the groups of priority. And vaccination will be one of the most important policies of our upcoming periods. For the supply of the vaccine, we push hard. And that's why we ask of you to closely follow the number of cases in your own cities and also the vaccination process ongoing. Both our Ministry of Health and also Interior Affairs and all other units and authorities will remain in close cooperation, and they will be rendering the conditions in all cities positive, and I believe we will be emerging victorious. In 2019, despite the conditions of the pandemic, we attracted more than 19 million tourists, and 2021, according to the projections, will be a new year for more movement to come. And the precursors of that are promising. We are in a very good position in terms of export and production. Food production, supply and distribution, which led to many challenges across the world, indeed were not the issues we had problems about. We also have made instructions to the Ministry of Agriculture for them to increase the agricultural credit lines from 180 to 500, because the chain markets applying high prices indeed and so to speak to exploit our people and the market itself. So first 500 and then 1,000 and maybe even more will be allocated for our people. This is what the state has to do. And we will do what's necessary. And if the others indeed plunder the market as they do right now, apologies, but we have to take some steps against that, and we will. Very recently, the January white goods domestic market sales and export sales figures were reported, and they all show that the growth continues. And according to that, the domestic market white goods sales increased by 29%, and for the export of the same category, there is an increase of 17%. And according to that, totally the white good production manufacturing in our country grew by 38%, and we will continue to receive even better news to bring the inflation rates downwards to ensure foreign exchange stability. We have been taking concrete steps, and we show our decisiveness in every field. The interest of finance institutions and rating institutions towards our country is growing, and we make a call to all the investors to contribute to the further production, employment and growth. And no one has the right to disappoint our people and turn people against one another, and we have never given a chance to such people, and we are determined to bring this process to a concrete form and finalize it successfully. With these thoughts in mind, I would like to wish you the best of success in your assembly work and extend my love and respect to each and every one of you. Thank you very much. Stay in health.
Saat 14'te genel kurula milletvekillerimizi bekliyoruz.